We interrupt our program to bring you a special broadcast.
Boom! Headshot!
Hey, it's Clay, welcome to the League of Legends video. This time we're going to do a why buy on Pantheon, the Artisan of War, also known as the Mantheon. He is a straight-up beast mode. He's got these crazy little things on his feet. Let's go ahead and zoom in and get all of the action of his gigantic feet and wonderful sculpted arms. Just an absolute man in every single way. Total beast. The Pantheon, the Artisan of War. Let's do a why buy, and let's go ahead and start talking about him. He is quite a interesting champion, kind of in a bit of a strange place. I wouldn't say he's considered overly strong, but still a fun champion to play. I definitely think he is very fun to play, but he's got his quirks. But I would say he's characterized as someone who has an extremely strong laning phase. Very, very few people can deal with him in lane. Very few people can trade with him effectively, or deal with his consistent harassment, long range. He also has some good CC, which really sets up ganks well. He also has a very nice burst with his entire combo as well. So overall, just a pretty interesting champion. A bit of a kind of somewhere in between an assassin and a bruiser. He's at home in the mid lane. I would say is probably his best place to go, but also very, very effective in the top lane. And also can be played in the jungle. He actually has been seen in the LCS recently, coming out of the jungle, as a very, very gank-heavy jungler, someone who can absolutely terrorize lanes. And basically, you're going to want to, rush level 3, because once he gets all 3 of his basic abilities, he becomes an absolute terror when it comes to ganks. But let's go ahead and start talking about those abilities and what makes him so special and unique. If we so choose, let's pull it up here. This is his passive, Aegis Protection. Basically, it gives him a free block. I believe that this is one of the rare, I think they used to call it dodge elements in the game, but blocks. There used to be a mechanic in the game where you could dodge abilities kind of based on like crit chance, where it was kind of like a random thing and you would get a percentage chance to do it. But I think they kind of took it out, and now Pantheon has it in his passive. I believe also Jax has it in his E. So basically the idea here is that after auto-attacking or casting a spell 4 times, he will gain a block. And this will apply to either a turret shot or an auto-attack, which will deal more than 40 physical damage, which is pretty much every single auto-attack I've ever heard of. I cannot think of an auto-attack that deals less than 40 damage. That seems pretty crazy to me. But so very, very useful. It makes him a fantastic tower diver as one of its best uses. It also makes him trade very nicely, just because he's able to really negate some of that initial damage from auto attacks, and especially against auto attack reliant champions, people like Udyr, or maybe let's see here, maybe a Kennen, someone who relies on quite a bit of auto attack damage in the beginning of the game. Can make him very, very strong. You can see I'm totally whiffing on this gank coming in here. Very, very poor map awareness on my part. You are welcome, Nocturne. You are very, very welcome. But I'm just going to run in here and try to get a combo off onto Mr. Jace. But it really was not going to work. That was definitely a fail on my part, and I'm going to have to flash out and die. So, wow, that was a total fail on my part. Just very, very, very poor map awareness there to not even see that gank coming. But my apologies to my jungler there and all the junglers out there. That was very, very poor. Although I do remember that, and my only wish was that he would have pinged. I wish he would have pinged for me, and then I would have really known what was coming. But you can see right as I come back into lane, I'm just doing tons of damage to this Jace here. He's in a world of hurt. See if I can get one more Q. There it is to pick up that kill. Nice. So let's talk about that. It's his Q. This is his spear shot. This is probably his best and most signature damage ability, bread and butter. It is a point-and-click nuke. It scales out very, very highly off of attack damage. Has a 4-second cooldown, which is very low. 600 range, which is a little bit better than most AD carry auto attacks. I believe they generally have a 550 range. So it kind of, I think a fair comparison is it's very similar to Ryze's Q, I think. Although the cooldown, I think, of Ryze's is like 3 seconds, but this one is 4. But very, very nice. It scales fantastically with attack damage, 140% bonus AD on its basic. And then it also has a very interesting interaction with your E, which has a passive ability called Certain Death, which means that if the target falls below 15% of their max health, it will crit, so dealing 50% more damage. So very, very useful there. Makes him fantastic tool for farming. You can use it to last hit minions almost with extreme success. You can see it. Oh, I think I was going to block one of those turret shots, but I must have wasted it on auto attack. But this is his primary form of damage, and definitely something you want to use quite often. It is fairly mana intensive, and something I will definitely talk about is whether or not you want to buy a mana item. In this game, I chose to go with a Tear of the Goddess, and I kind of enjoy it. I'm kind of the thought that if someone has mana problems, it makes them an excellent candidate for a Tear or some sort of mana item if you can. Manamune is a good choice on Mr. Pantheon just because it gives him a lot of bonus AD. I believe that the toggle will also apply to your Q, so even then making it more effective. And it also solves a lot of his mana problems in lane, pretty much allowing you to spam it at will. You can see I'm doing that right here on Jace, just whittling him down slowly, taking total control and domination over this lane with my consistent Q harass there, and jumping on him using my E. Gonna throw off some more Qs, and there we go, pick up that kill there, very nice. Just, you can see, Q after Q after Q, just throwing spear after spear is very crucial to success with Pantheon in lane. But definitely his best ability, I would say, that it's really the reason why you would want to play him. You can see, watch this, TF comes in. Let's see if I can get out of this. I'm going to throw, there, wait for his yellow card to expire, going to jump on him, Q, E, and then auto attack and another Q, but I did get the ignite off, and he is going to fall, so I really turned that one around. Very, very nice stuff right there. But let's keep talking about his abilities so I can explain what I was actually doing there. Next is his W. This is his Aegis of Xeonia. It is his gap closer, and also it has a nice stun located corresponding with it. So it gives him, basically he'll jump to target, and then it will stun them for 1 second. Makes it very, very nice. You can see anytime I jump on my target, I'm using my W, and then I usually like to follow it up with my E soon after, but nice ability. The 1 second stun is very nice. The gap close is very nice. The weird thing about this ability, though, is that it scales with ability power, which is kind of strange, because you generally aren't going to be building a lot of AP on Mr. Mantheon. But it does have a 100% AP ratio. Very low base damage as well, so you really don't use this skill for its damage as much as its gap close and its stun. That's pretty much all that there is to it. One other thing to note, though, about this is that when you jump on a target, the Aegis of Protection from his passive is refreshed, which is very, very handy. So you can actually chain together 2 passive blocks in a row. If you use the block and then jump on them, then you'll get another block. So very, very handy for if you're tower diving. You can see I jumped on him right there. Finally, I was waiting for a chance to use it, to talk about it. The 1 second stun is very, very handy. Next is his E. This is his Heartseeker Strike. This has that passive active component. The passive component is the certain death that I was talking about before, where once you get a point... yes, so I believe, I'm pretty sure... Yep, that's definitely... Here we go, there we go. That was nice right there, being able to pick up that kill. So once your target falls below 15% of their maximum health... oh, you see, I ended up dying there to that TF gang. Couldn't quite get out of that one. I was too close to tower to really wait out his yellow card. But the certain death passive going on, I already talked about it. When you fall below 15% of your health, your next auto attack or spear shot will crit. But then his... Oh, wow, I really went way too fast on that. Oh my goodness, guys. My dearest apologies. So let's go ahead and check this out. So basically, with his E, he will stand in one position and he will burst forward for about, I believe, about 1 full second. And then dealing consistent damage on the way. You can see using it right there, W, Q, E, right there to finish him off. His E is a really, really nice ability for its burst. Let's see here, it's a channeled ability for 0.75 seconds, where Pantheon will stand in position, he'll kind of squat down, and he'll fire rapid-fire bullets, or spears, or strikes, or whatever you want to call them, in a cone in front of him. It has 600 range and has a bit of a fan-shaped cone. And it will deal a tremendous amount of damage, has very, very high AD scaling ratios, and it has, I believe, double damage to champions than based on minions. So against champions, it has up to a 320 base damage plus 360% bonus AD ratio. So tremendously high AD scaling. This ability is what makes Pantheon a real assassin, that if you jump on someone and you can get them into the full, it's using right there on this mini wave, if you can get them in the full duration of your E, they're going to take a boatload of damage, a metric truck ton, to be precise. So very, very nice. It is a little bit odd because it is channeled. I would say that a lot of assassins, you want to be able to get your burst off extremely quickly. With Pantheon, that's not necessarily the case. You know, if you're comparing to someone like Zed or Kha'Zix, all of their abilities are pretty much instantaneous, whereas with Pantheon, you kind of have to make sure that you get all of your E in, because the majority of your burst damage comes off of your E. So with his basic abilities, the idea here is that you want to use your Q for last hitting, for harassing. If you choose to go with a mana item, then that can really help. You can pretty much spam it on cooldown. If not, you want to be a little more selective. But the Q is a fantastic tool for that. You can see using Q, W, E right there. That's kind of his basic combo. Q, W, E, Q. And gotta flash out and run away. Wasn't able to get quite enough damage on... Oh, that was unfortunate right there. I was waiting for one more round of my cooldowns. I was pretty sure I could finish him off, but wasn't quite able to. You can see the basic idea is that use your Q to harass your opponents down in lane. Use your W to get the CC on them if you want to stun them for an incoming gank, or if you want to burst them down. And then use your E for the burst. You can see you jumping onto him right there with my W, and then using my E for the burst damage to try to really finish him off. And then lastly is his ultimate. We need to talk about that because I just use it, Grand Skyfall. That basically, it's kind of similar to a Twisted Fate ult, where it has that 5,500 range. And he will jump up in the air, and it's kind of like a teleport where he will be able to jump to a target location, kind of like in a teleport style fashion. Very, very interesting. And basically what will happen is a black circle will appear, and any target that is within the circle will take damage and be slowed. And the damage is based, if they're in the center of the circle, they'll take more damage, and then it goes down to a minimum. But then any enemy also within the circle will actually be slowed. So, yeah, very, very nice. Very, very good stuff. Basically, it gives Pantheon this kind of semi-global range. It allows him to be a little bit, like I said, a little bit like a Twisted Fate. Gives him a lot of mobility, a lot of ability to kind of enter into fights where not a lot of other champions could. If you compare it to like Twisted Fate's ultimate, it definitely pales in comparison, just because I would say with TF you have a lot more of an instantaneous map presence, whereas with Pantheon, the main problem with his Grand Skyfall is that it has a very long channel time, and it also has a very long drop time. So you can see, using my W, E, Q right there, although I got kicked back by Lee. But the main problem with the Grand Skyfall is that it is relatively slow. It is definitely an ability that, it definitely, ooh, a nice job, oh, almost able to stay alive there. Sorry, I was able to pick up that kill. But with Grand Skyfall, it gives you that global map presence, but it's a little bit less useful because it's very easy to dodge. Once that black circle comes up, your enemies pretty much have plenty of time to escape. You can see I'm using it right here to get myself in position, jumping on Ashe, and not quite able to finish her off, even though I tried my very, very hardest. Trying to catch up to this Ashe. If I can get one more Q off, I'll be really happy. Gonna block that with my passive. Ooh, nice job there. Using my Q, W, E, Q, and then falling to TF. So I'm not really 100% sure if that was worth it, but I did it nonetheless. So those are his basic abilities. Now I'm going to focus a little bit more on the gameplay and kind of his playstyle. So the basic idea is that Pantheon is an extremely strong lane bully. Because of his Q and his W and his E, he has very, very easy to land damage. His Q is just a point-and-click shot, not a skill shot or anything like that. His E is his W is the same way, and then the W and the E have great synergy. If you jump on them, stun them for a full second, and then channel your E for 0.75 seconds, you can get the full damage off. Very, very, very strong laner. I would say that's really one of the major high points of playing Pantheon, is that he has, like I said, he has very, very few counters. So if you're struggling in top lane against certain champions like a Jace or an Udyr, or some of those champions who, Kennen maybe, who are giving you a really hard time, try Pantheon out. He can be a very, very effective counter to those types of champions, just because his kit really works well for it to be a lane bully. But he has some quirks. His W has that weird AP scaling. His ultimate is a little bit questionable. I wouldn't say it is the best. Of all the global or semi-global ultimates, thinking about Twisted Fate or Shen or any of those types of Nocturne, I would say Twisted Fate, Pantheon probably has the worst lot out of all of them with his Grand Skyfall. It's a fun ability to use. It's very interesting, but I would say it is limited in its use. Just because it has such a slow cast time, it's very easy for enemies to kind of figure it out and run away. It's eating these Qs from this This silly... Oh, look at that. We both jumped into it at the exact same moment, and I'm going to lose this fight. Pretty confident in that, unfortunately. But a lot of trading going on so far in this game. But the big thing about Pantheon is that, number one, his ultimate definitely is a little bit wonky, but I would say that the big thing about him is that late game, once he gets out of his very strong laning phase, he kind of enters no man land, where there really isn't a place for him. He doesn't really have much of a role. He doesn't really serve much of as an assassin because he has no reliable way to escape once he does hop in and get the kill. And because so much of his burst damage is tied into his E, which is a channeled ability, meaning that it can be interrupted by crowd control, if you end up diving on a carry and they have a support who has some sort of crowd control, like a Thresh or a Alistar or something like that, you know, you're not going to get your full burst off of your E, and you're just going to die, because once you go in, you have no way to get out. Think about someone like Zed or Talon, Katarina. They all have a reliable way to get back out of the fight after they get a kill. But with Pantheon, he is extremely all in. That's why he is the Mantheon. There's just nothing that he can do to get out of that fight once he gets into it. But that's not to say that he doesn't have a very strong laning phase, which is definitely his biggest upside, is that he can really easily snowball almost any lane. It's just that late game he kind of enters a bit of a wonky state where there's just not a very clear-cut thing for him to do. But it is what it is. You can see Nocturne driving it for gank. I'm going to flash W, Q, E, and we're going to go in for this kill. Nocturne is going really deep, going to throw in a couple of Qs and an auto attack, and we're going to get out very nicely. Like I said before, Pantheon is a fantastic tower diver. You can see I blocked that last turret shot there. So it really is one of the fun things you can do about him, is you can dive turrets very freely without much worry or concern. Yeah, so those are his basic abilities. Now to kind of get into a bit of his playstyle. Like I said, with the abilities, your basic combo is kind of this. Use your Q to kind of whittle them down. Especially if you do, in fact, invest in a mana item, spamming your Q is very much the way to go. On the flip side, you could go pretty much straight AD, getting items like a Brutalizer and a Bloodthirster, and then focusing more on your burst. So then you're going to be focusing more on your E for your damage rather than your Q. And then you're just trying to get off a nice Q, W, E, Q. So throw the spear, jump on them with your W, stun them, use your E for the channeled burst, and then throw down another Q because it likely will be off cooldown by this time. And then, you know, that is going to provide a tremendous amount of burst with all that ability. If you land all of that together, you've got, you know, especially that second Q is going to get you another 200. So you've got 140 on your first Q, you've got 360 on the whole E, and then another 210. So we're talking about almost 600% of your AD in that combo. So very effective if you can get a high amounts of raw attack damage. Can really make that burst extremely effective. But you can also play him as a little bit of kind of an off-tank, which is kind of the build I chose to go for in this game. I was very much experimenting with this build. I'm not trying to say that this is the best build, but this build is aimed to kind of make up for some of his shortcomings in lane. I would say a more typical build is to go straight AD Assassin, so you're focusing on, you want to probably get an early Brutalizer. You probably are going to want to turn that into a Black Cleaver, because Black Cleaver synergizes extremely well with Pantheon. His E specifically, I believe, will apply 3 stacks of your Black Cleaver, so if you do that QWEQ, I believe you are going to, you know, really be able to stack up that very nicely. It's using my ultimate to jump in. Just a short distance, although a bit of a waste right there. I don't really know why exactly I did that, but able to pick up that kill there, and then use my W and my E to jump on that Ashe. So got the kill there with my Q, use my W to jump on Ashe and lock her down. But as I was saying, I would say a more typical standard build with Pantheon is to go straight AD Assassin. So you're, like I said, getting the Brutalizer, Black Cleaver, Bloodthirster is very core in that type of a build. Because like I said, you want as much raw attack damage as you could possibly get. Last Whisper is a good choice because Pantheon is a bit of an AD caster, so armor penetration is very effective on him. You know, you're not worrying about building things like crit or attack speed. Those really aren't going to be that helpful on Pantheon. But I guess crit kind of has its place with his the passive on his E. It's using my WE and one more Q to pick up that kill. Nice job. I believe that was all started by the RE Charm. And we can see Twisted Fate coming right in. And I'm not afraid to jump on him. And using my Qs and my W and my auto attacks to finish off that kill. Very nice. Run away, Caitlyn. I can save you. Getting one more kill there. Nice job. A triple kill right there. Throwing out my Q and using my E. Another. Can we get one more for the quad? No, I cannot. Stolen by the scumbag Ari. Just kidding, Ari. You know I love you. I was a couple of nice charms there in that fight, so you definitely deserve some of those kills. But again, talking about build, I would say Pantheon works very well in more of that straight AD build. If you're going to go for that AD assassin build, I definitely would recommend speccing at least a little bit into the utility tree to get some mana regen, just to help with his mana problems. But personally, I really enjoy this build. So the idea with this build is that you are making up for his lack of scaling with scaling items. So we're getting an early tier of the goddess into a Mantheon, which you can see I have 600 out of 750 charge, so which isn't horrible at about the 27-minute mark. Is not the worst. I'm pretty much have been spamming my Q on cooldown as much as I possibly can. Then from there I go into this kind of old school Atma's Impaler into straight health. I think I got Frozen Mallet and then Atma's and then Warmogs. So the idea is that I'm getting flat HP in the Frozen Mallet and the Warmogs to make me a little bit more tanky. You can see I have almost 3,600 health. I also get to slow on my auto attacks with Frozen Mallet, which is nice. But basically I'm getting these for the straight health. Then also getting the Atma's Impaler, which will be nice because it's giving me armor and crit chance, both the things that Pantheon can use. The thing about Atma's Impaler is if your champion cannot use the crit, I find that it to be very ineffective. But Pantheon can use the crit, I believe, and don't quote me on this, I'm not actually 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that things like Infinity Edge or this Atma's Impaler will... I don't actually know. I'm trying to think about the interaction between his passive on his E, the Certain Death, where he gets that crit chance when they fall below 50% of their max health, but I'm really not 100% sure exactly the interaction there. So you'll have to forgive me on that. But see, I actually get caught out there in that heat by pretty bad positioning right there, and poor use of my ult as well. I really am going to have to do more research to speak confidently on the interaction of crit and his passive on his E, but Pantheon can use the crit, at least in my understanding of it. But basically, I'm using the Atmas to turn the health that I'm stacking into bonus attack damage. So you can see I'm getting 56 bonus AD from the Frozen Mallet and the Warmogs. So it kind of makes me I solve the mana problems with my Mantheon. I turn myself into a bit of an off tank. So it kind of solves his issue of not really having a role late game. So instead of being that assassin that can get in but can never get out, I turn myself into a bit more of an off tank, focusing on using my W for kind of its peel, using my E to kind of zone control, using my Q for more of the poke and more of as a finisher as well. So it kind of solved that issue right there, and then also I'm getting myself some nice attack damage with the Atmas because it will scale nicely with these other two items. So probably after this, looking for something maybe like a I don't exactly know why I cannot think of it right now. It's the really fantastic armor item. You see right there, a nice job. That was the QWEQ combo, able to really easily burst down that Zillion. No big deal. It's really bothering me that I cannot think of this item. Can I open up the item store in here? I'm definitely going for it with this cloth armor, that's for darn sure. But it's the big armor and health item. Randuin's Omen. Thank you very much. Probably one of the best defensive items in the game. But again, I will say that with this build, this was kind of an experimental build. I don't necessarily think that this is the best build in the world. I think that this build has some quirks. I know that Atma's Impaler in general is kind of in a bad spot right now. Not a lot of people tend to buy it. I know that kind of the Atmogs or the Fratmogs, as people used to call it, used to be very commonplace, and so they nerfed it kind of into the ground. But just something that I was trying out, and in this game I seem to have a lot of success with. You see a nice double kill right there with a nice WE combo, just shredding down both Zillion and TF right there. Really, really good stuff. But personally, I like this build because it kind of solves a lot of Pantheon's issues. It helps them scale in the late game because you're basically scaling with your items. You see, getting a nice kill there onto Ashe. You're scaling with your items, not necessarily your abilities, giving yourself a little bit more of a role as an off tank, and still being able to do some damage as well. But overall, Pantheon is a lot of fun. He's a huge lane bully. He's got a semi-global ultimate. He's got a really nice harassment and ability with his Q. He's got nice synergy with his W and his E to jump on somebody and burst them down. But late game, he definitely tends to fall off and lose his role. So, you might want to try to make up for that with some different itemization. But overall, still a very fun champion to play. He has a very cool, just kind of that Greek warrior theme is very, very fun, and I think his kit very much works around that. I also am very confident that I read some posts or that Morello had said that they are going to be reworking Pantheon, at least a little bit, giving a little bit of love. I would assume they're going to touch probably his W and his E, because those are probably the most wonky skills he has. If they made his W able to do something where it can... something more than just jump on somebody, I think would be really nice. And with his ultimate, they're going to have to change something about the way it works. Make it maybe a little bit quicker channel time or something like that. But overall, that's Pantheon. He is a beast. You take him top lane, take him mid lane, take him into the jungle, or you could even take him bot lane for a total kill lane. I think he works quite well for that. But he's still quite a lot of fun to play, and I would definitely recommend him. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's all I've got on Pantheon, the Mantheon himself, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.